Hello and welcome back to Magical Shit Show, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to everybody out there. It's been another year. I've made a video on this day last year in 2020. Menstrual Hygiene Day is on the 28th of May every year, and it aims to further the destigmatization of menstruation, something that more than half of all people on this planet have to go through, and still it's something that's weirdly looked on in a lot of parts of the world, where people who are in no control of it and just have to experience it are further shamed by other groups of the society or denied rights that should be essential. There are many reasons why it's very much worth talking about menstruation and menstrual hygiene and the education that's needed in a lot of circumstances out there that is not given. And so Menstrual Hygiene Day is the 28th of May, and we here at Magical Manor, we celebrate this day by playing some video games about menstruation, because that is a subject that is very unlike the typical video game subject, and I'm always looking for attempts at making an interactive experience, a video game, about things that aren't typically made into interactive entertainment. Please excuse me if I look very tired and my background looks very barren, because I'm literally in the middle of moving apartments. This apartment is almost completely empty already, and I've been very busy fucking moving shit, and this is most likely gonna be the last video that I'm ever recording in here as well. Well, now it is 100% the last video I'm recording in here. So last time we played a bunch of itch.io games, a bunch of indie games, mostly small things. But since we exhausted that well, I had to see what else is left. And I mean, you can imagine that there isn't like a sea of video games about menstruation. I'm surprised to make a second video about this myself. But yeah, I found a few games that seem very much worth looking at. Firstly, we got Tampon Run, which is apparently an indie game made by a teenager. Andrea Gonzalez and Sophie Hauser are high school students in New York City. We met this summer at Girls Who Code, an organization trying to close the gender gap in tech, where we cultivated our love of coding. This is our final project for the program. Some pixelated classical music. Most women menstruate for a large portion of their lives. It is by all means normal. Yeah. Yet most people, women and men alike, feel uncomfortable talking about anything having to do with menstruation. The taboo that surrounds it teaches women that a normal and natural bodily function is embarrassing and crude. Tampon Run is a way of discussing the taboo in an accessible way. Instead of holding a gun, the runner holds tampons, and instead of shooting enemies, the runner throws tampons at them. Although the concept of the video game may be strange, it's stranger that our society has accepted and normalized guns and violence through video games, yet we still find tampons and menstruation unspeakable. Yes, good point, I agree. Hopefully one day menstruation will be as normal, if not more so, than guns and violence have become in our society. Normal enough to place in a video game without a second thought. Okay, I like where this is coming from, 100%. Instructions: hit all the enemies with your tampons, don't let them pass you, they'll confiscate your tampons. Collect tampon boxes for more tampons, don't run out of tampons or it's game over. Never have I said the word tampons this many times in a minute. And I worked in retail where I put them on the shelf. Instructions: press up to jump and space to throw. Yeah, okay. Okay, I see. So it's a very simple endless runner. And I already fucking lost, thanks for playing. Who are these people with the pink hats? The tampon police? The menstruation cops? Okay, I ran out of things, but there genuinely wasn't anything to pick up. I guess I have to just jump instead of firing all my tampons. Jesus, that was massive. Okay, each package has 5 tampons, I guess, and I lost 2 by getting hit there. And I guess the encounters, the number of people coming at me, as well as the placement of the boxes, all just randomly generated. It's not like pre-designed. So I'm assuming there's not actually an end to this either, it's just an arcade-like high score chase. But yeah, I mean, sure, for such a small indie game made by 2 girls, this is completely decent. I've seen wars for free on itch.io, and I've even seen wars for money on Steam. I can tell you that for sure. They should make a full version of this, or a sequel, where you can use either tampons, pads, or menstrual cups, like different weapons. That would be fucking awesome. Like, the tampon can stay the normal, like, gun one-shot thing, but maybe use the pad as like a shotgun blast that covers more ground. Oh, I lost. My high score is 59. And maybe a menstrual cup that works like a bazooka rocket missile, something like that. Alright, I guess that's Tampon Run. Wow. I never even played that game, and still it came out of my mouth automatically instead of the actual name here, Tampon Run. Okay. Speak about Tampon Run. The next game we're gonna play is actually called Tampon Run, but it is because it's about running in a Hindu temple. I sense a theme here that I didn't expect. What the fuck? So the file is called temple.run.zip, but here it's called Darshan Diversion. So I'm not sure which of these is the more appropriate name or official title, but this is a game that has its sources in actual political real life situations, or one at least. This game has been inspired by recent incidents of priests at Indian temples preventing women from entering, especially while menstruating, and hence diverting them away from their moment of God, Darshan as it's called in several Indian languages. Events are getting increasingly out of hand, as evidenced by the news article there. And so, what a better way to demonstrate the utter insanity of the situation than make a game about it. So this resulted from a game jam in 2016 in Bangalore, where people met to create video games in a set short amount of time, like some days or something, a few days, maybe even less. And this is heavily based on actual political happenings at the time, where apparently some priests at Indian temples denied women access to those temples because they didn't want menstruating people in their holy temple for some reason or another. Obviously, I'm not Indian. I have no fucking idea about anything there, so I'm not gonna pretend like I do. But that's the gist of it. And so this person made pretty much as a political piece of protest, pretty much, they made this video game, which is actually fucking interesting. Concept by Padmini Ray Murray, Joel Johnson, and K.V. Ketan. For centuries, women have been barred from entering temples and performing rituals in Hinduism, especially if they are menstruating. It is now 2016. The board president of Sabha Rimala Temple, Kerala, has this to contribute to the ongoing debate. The loading bar down there is way too quick. These days there are machines that can scan bodies and check for weapons. No. These days there are machines that can scan bodies and check for weapons. There will be a day when a machine is invented to scan if it is the right time for women to enter the temple. When that machine is invented, we will talk about letting women inside. So this person wants to ban women completely from his temple or whatever because of the possibility that it could be menstruating, which is a big no-no, I guess. Fucking hell. Until there's a way to scan people. Does he want people to have like a menstruation calendar with them where they have to prove that they are not having their week, their days? Okay, that's really dumb. I don't know. This was in 2016. I have no idea where this situation is nowadays, obviously. But so what is the game? Multiplayer game. Tap Z to send a menstruating lady. Tap 8, 0, I, or O for the 4 priests. If a menstruating lady gets to the top floor, +1 for woman. If a priest catches menstruating, no menstruating woman. This is an exclusively 2-player game. I can play the other side with those 4 buttons where I control the guards who tell them to go. But if I tell a woman to go who is not menstruating, I'm getting minus points. Okay, so the women go in and out forever. You press Z to send in a woman that's actually menstruating right now. And the guards people have to, I guess, they have to guess and find out which one it is and then shoo her out. I mean, if you're actually playing this multiplayer at one keyboard, you know when the person is pressing the button to send in a menstruating lady, right? So this doesn't really work, right? So it's an interesting idea, but it doesn't really work, I guess. The pixel art is good though, I like that. Also, I mean, aside from that though, it's kind of just a pure guessing game for the person who controls the guards. Unless I'm missing something. Okay, the menstruating people sometimes blink up. Do the guards smell the menstruation? I don't fucking know, man. I mean, it's a decent idea, sure. Alright. Though good effort, for sure. An interesting backstory as well. But it's interesting to give a look into places of the world that you barely know anything about. Now we got Rot, which is a fucking great title. It's a great title in general for anything, just Rot. That's awesome, I love that. But also, Rot is German for the color red. And I would almost like put money on the idea that they put that on purpose, like that's the point. The color red, Rot. This is an interactive text adventure. We had one of those in the last video as well, last year. And it was pretty interesting, honestly. This one, visually at least, might even be more interesting. An interactive fiction piece about the transition from childhood to adulthood in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Rot. She rakes and thinks she is dying. The skin between her thighs is thick and sticky, glued together, scratchy where it stretches. It's an alien sensation. For a moment she thinks she may have soiled herself in her sleep, but it feels sicker than that. A feeling builds in the pit of her stomach, aches that crests along the ridges of her spine and between the hollows of her hips. She reaches her fingers between herself where the skin is warm and oil-rich. The prose, the text style is pretty good so far. It's dark, but she can see the blood between her fingers when she pulls them up. When she glides her fingers against each other, there's an earthy richness to it, different than the bitter tang of a busted nose or lost tooth. It reeks of decay. Damn. Thomason shifts. The cabin is still quiet, the constant sway enough to hide her panic in her own bunk. She holds her fingers in her skirt, the blood already drying on her hands. She shoves rags into her underclothes, she holds her arms to herself, she thinks about Lillian. I mean, I don't know who Lillian is. I don't know what wrapping my arms around myself would do, unless, except maybe comfort. But I mean, it seems like the clear choice here would be to... I mean, I hope the rags are clean. I'm gonna assume they are. She shoves the rags into her underclothes, hoping to keep out the scent of decay. If she can scent it, then it is without question the others will as well. Watch this become like a zombie survival thing or something, and the actual problem with having that smell of decay from her menstrual blood is that it would draw creatures towards her in this post-apocalypse. Watch it become that. That would be interesting. Morning comes to the cabin in a gentle murmur of far-off bunks. A quiet commotion that builds up steam as it travels down the thin rows. Down the aisle, Thomason can hear Piotr and Judas as they play for scraps. There's the metallic slide of rails as the cabin tilts around the corner. A slight screech, then somehow Charles manages to sleep through. She cannot stay here forever. The fabric in her underclothes catches in the crevices of her womanhood, slides thickly, now wet with her own blood, around her. She can smell herself, bloated and sick. God damn, dude! The thesaurus on this one. She slides her legs to the edge of the bunk, bare legs hanging down. A hand grasps her by the ankle. Thomason starts suddenly, her legs pulling up in a panic. I like how this graphic is like just peeking out and you have to scroll down to see what actually is going on here. It's a good art style though, I like this. The woman from the bunk below her stands. Mother Madsen is a crone, thin and lean like an ill-roiled joint. Interesting choice of description. At her height, her face is near the edge of the bunk. Her eyes sharply focused on the edge of Thomason's skirt, even though they have not seen for as long as Thomason has been alive. Girl, her tone is brittle, her voice a distant, ill-used thing. Girl, have you had your first bleed? Thomason is still. What? I am the same as I was this morning? No. I am the same as I was this morning. Mother Madsen reaches between Thomason's thighs. That's not cool. Her hand firm and the skin thin. She reaches beneath her underwear. I would appreciate if you would not do that. She reaches beneath her underwear, her fingers collecting the butter-thick fluid from the rags she finds there. She pulls her hand out from the dress, blood thick on her fingers, smeared in the fabric of her abortive measures. The words, the choice of words, damn. The woman's tongue as long as she licks a thick swipe across her lifeline. Thomason cannot look away, her fingers digging into the edges of her dress, her fingers caked in her own dried blood. She watches as Mother Madsen pulls the fingers back from her face, her tongue wet with blood. Ah, girl, it's time. Mother Madsen pulls her from the bed. Thomason's feet are cold, bare on the floor grates as Mother Madsen pulls her down the Warren-like aisles of the cabin. The blood runs down her legs, slipping wetly down her knees. It comes in a rush when she first stands, dripping wetly on the grated floor. Above the aches in her body and the front of her head, she can sense every drop of blood she leaves along the aisles or that falls down her body. This is not only graphic, it's also pretty fucking grim in tone. A cold trail runs from her center down across the thin bones of her ankle and between her toes. Far away as she can still hear the quiet murmur of voices, the sounds of Piotr and Judas, of Charles still snoring away in his bunk. She cannot call out to them now. Is she the only girl in that group? You are a good child, Thomason. Her gums slid unevenly across themselves, teeth having long since vacated Mother Madson's mouth. Again, great choice of words. I have birthed men good children, till my skin hung like rags at my waist, till I was stretched too thin to burst. It ain't my time now, though, is it? No, it's yours. Fuck off. You are your own, Thomason. Mother Madson's eyes catch hers even in their slightlessness. She bangs on the door that separates the cabin from the one in front of it. The clank echoing in the cabin, Thomason looks back towards her home, but she is unseen. Fuck. The door bangs open. Thomason turns around. Thomason looks at Mother Madsen. Is there another exit? Does turning around make any sense? Let's try it. I just want to go. I don't like this. A woman is standing there, her figure shrouded in thick black. Mother Madsen raises her bloodied fingers to the woman's face. The newcomer grabs Thomason by the wrist and pulls her through the door. The woman slams the door shut. Thomason has never been to the next cabin, has never seen beyond the door. God damn it. I don't want to know what's in there, bro. The space between cabins is cramped, the floor uneven, and Thomason is freezing in her thin dress. The other woman's hands are rough on her wrist as she opens the door to the next cabin. There are more people here, more men who watch as Thomason is led past them. No! She looks for a friendly face in the crowd, but they are all strangers to her. The skinny boy in the aisle, playing for scraps, twists out of the aisle as they approach. He just fucked off. The man in the nearest bunk turns his head when she looks at him. It seemed there was no hope for her here. She feels the slick wetness sliding down her thighs, a feeling that stretched north as it pulled sickly in her gut. It felt as though a tether of blood was slipping between the hairs of her femininity, coldly sliding against the skin of her legs. The men here watch, but they do nothing. The woman leads her through the cabin and the space between, another room of thin bunks filled with men like Piotr and Judas, men like Charles, men she had grown up with who now watch her but do not see. She can feel their eyes on her, on the tacky wetness of her skin, on the blood that soaks, on the blood that slips. My God. The blood that soaks. That is like a death metal song title. The blood that soaks. She can feel them watching her even as she slips into the between, far from the cabin that she had called home. The cabin is filled with the thick stench of tobacco, rolled joints pressed within the hands of a large man. Help. Or ignore the man. Help, she begs, reaching out to one of the men. She tries to yank from the hand of the woman, whose grasp does not cease on her hand. The closest man blows a cloud of smoke into her face and laughs. You got a lively one there, Anomalisa. Okay. He laughs as the woman pulls her along. Do you think I can get a crack at her? I do not like where this is going. Amanda, why are you writing this? But what are you getting at here? The men around him laugh, a shared joke that Thomason does not understand. Stupid child. This is getting dark. I don't know if I should have done this for the last one. My lord, dude. Stupid child, Anomalisa shakes her head. A child, even with first blood. Rambo, first blood. The cabin is warm, a difference made more pronounced by the cold of the between spaces. The room is quiet too. There is a softness that seems to permeate the very air. The room smells sweet. The woman here sits on low bunks and watch her as she enters, as if they have been waiting for her. A woman sits on the bed nearest to the door, brown hair and a half-made smile. Her guide drags her over to the bedside. The woman's skin is stretched, taut around her width, a great mass across her middle. Beneath her flesh a figure pushes as though through a thin cloth. The woman's skin is a pale blue and she reaches out and grabs Thomason's hand, her fingers cold in hers. She takes Thomason's hand and presses it against the skin of her belly. The thing beneath pushes against Thomason's hand, a butt across her bloodied palm, and Thomason moves as to pull back, but the woman is strong and she holds tight. She's a mother. Anomalisa pushes her own hand on top of Thomason's. She's a mother, she repeats. Just like you. The end, I guess. Okay, so last time the interactive story we had was actually like you had to go through the day as a homeless mother, dealing with shit, including your menstruation. This one was more just like a streamlined story that you clicked through. The fucking tone is grim as shit, even though not much really happens, but it's still so uncomfortable what it just implies at points. Doesn't seem nice, doesn't seem cool, she's treated like cattle. Alright. On that happy note, there was 3 games, more or less, on that attempted to include the subject of menstruation into interactive entertainment, I guess. And that is it on this Menstrual Hygiene Day from Matt Jerko, I guess. Despite the grim tone of the last entry there, do not feel discouraged to talk about the subject of menstruation like any other open subject. We all have to shit and pee. And half of us have to bleed as well. That's not a thing that is in anyone's choice. That's not a choice that anybody makes. That's just essential living. And these things, I'm not saying that shitting and pissing is the subject for every occasion. Neither is menstruation. But by no fucking stretch of the imagination does that mean that menstruation is something to be ashamed by, to hide, to act like it doesn't exist, or not be able to just talk about it, especially in the context of education, which is definitely missing partly. If it's missing, if that education is missing somewhere, it is most likely because of that stupid societal taboo to not talk about it. So, on this Menstrual Hygiene Day, how about you buy your friends some menstrual products? It's always a nice thing. If they have a uterus, they most likely can need it. So just, do them a favor, be a cool friend. And, have a nice rest of the day. Bye bye.